future of federal workers hangs in the balance as agency managers square up with Doge leader Elon Musk. Employees got an email from the White House over the weekend asking them to reply with 5 examples of work they did in the past week. If they failed to respond, those workers would be fired. The deadline to submit that response was last night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. But Musk seemingly had a change of heart. He posted this to his X account ahead of the midnight cutoff. Subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination. Musk also slammed federal workers and their managers last night, saying, quote, the email request was utterly trivial as the standard for passing the test was to type some words and press send. Yet so many failed even that inane test, urged on, in some cases, by their managers. Have you ever witnessed such incompetence and contempt for how your taxes are being spent? Now, those agencies have new guidance from the White House on how to respond to those emails. The Office of Personnel Management released a memo outlining changes to the initial directive from the president. That memo said in part, quote, agencies should consider any appropriate actions regarding employees who fail to respond to activity and accomplishment requests. It is agency leadership's decision as to what actions are taken. It also seems to exempt Trump White House staffers from sending those emails. At least 5 agencies pushed back on the original memo and told employees to ignore the request. Those agencies include the FBI, the American Federation of Government Employees, the State Department, the Department of Defense, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now for more. Weijia, thank you for joining us today. What else stood out to you in this memo, and who should employees listen to at this point?
Well, Mugo, that is the question, because what stands out from the memo is that it doesn't match what Elon Musk said in his post on X, which, of course, said you have another chance, and if you don't respond, then you will be forced to resign and lose your job. But that is not what the Office of Personnel Management said, and they are essentially the HR department for the federal government. We just heard you lay it out, and they said it's up to the agency heads to determine whether or not these employees have to respond and whether or not some should be given an exemption, to basically use their discretion. And so the question that is outstanding is, how much power does Elon Musk really have? I mean, President Trump has been empowering him at every one of these twists and turns, calling his idea to make people justify their work in writing ingenious. And he says he backs this idea of having to write down your 5 accomplishments. But that doesn't mean a federal judge would agree if you took it to court. Because as an example, OPM, this HR agency, did not send a memo to federal workers that also said you have another chance, you have more time essentially to fill this out, like Elon said on X. So if a federal worker doesn't have social media, what are they supposed to do? They would not have received that message from Musk. And so there are so many questions for the White House about your very question, which is, who are people supposed to listen to? There's so much mass confusion about all of this, Mugo.
Yeah, confusion, the key word here. And I want to ask you a different question here. This is about the IRS. The acting commissioner may step down over disagreements about Doge access to sensitive data. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, I want to be really careful not to conflate these two things, because Doug O'Donnell, the current acting chief of the IRS, he was going to step down anyway. He was a career staffer who had been there for 4 decades. He only stepped in because President Biden's appointee resigned on the first day of the Trump administration. And then the person that President Trump picked to fill that spot, former Congressman from Missouri, Billy Long, has not had his Senate confirmation hearing yet. And so that was always going to happen at some point. It just hasn't been prioritized by the Senate to get him confirmed. So we don't know exactly why the acting person, who is Doug O'Donnell, is stepping down. But you're right in that there has been a lot of chaos out of that department. Some 6,500 workers were fired, and a lot of questions remain about Doge's attempt to access workers' personal information. All of that was sort of happening at the same time as O'Donnell announcing, or expected to announce, that he's going to step down. But again, we don't want to say that one thing led to another when he was going to step down anyway.
Right. Okay, Weijia Jiang, thank you so much for the context on that and for joining us on the stream today. Appreciate your time.